This podcast is brought to you by Collector Legion. For all your single and gaming needs, there is no substitute. And if you're lucky enough to find yourself in LA with time to play, check them out for the best in-person gaming experience this side of the Pro Tour. Welcome to Split Second Sorcerers. I'm your host with the most burn spells in his hand, Isaac Sears. And today on the pod, we have PT London champion, GP Memphis quarterfinalist, and champion of the Peter Quach Sealed League. It's
the one, the only
Metal Loveman, or as many otherwise may know him, Eli Loveman.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Well, things that aren't so great are perhaps punts. Do you have one that is the biggest or most embarrassing?
Fortunately, a lot of my biggest punts have been off camera. There was the one that I felt the worst against during the pandemic, during the Rivals League, when we were playing a bunch of high stakes matches against good players, just back to back to back. I brought back a Cauldron Familiar in my end step, thinking I could attack with it, and then I missed the point of damage with my Mayhem Devil because I brought it back in my end step, and then ended up losing the match to Joel Larson. And I'm just thinking, like,
who was that?
Just like, I'm just saying, like, I ended up staying in the Rivals League by I was the first player in. If I had done any worse, I would not have been invited back. So, like, I think about that match a lot. Just like, if you'd done that any more times, you would have, like, been kicked out. And it's just like, so it's like little edges against good players, like, yeah.
Whee! Well, if you could change one thing about Magic, whether it be structure, bannings, unbannings, what would it be?
This has been said before by players who are better than me, but I think the simplest thing to do would just be to get rid of maximum hand size, discarding maximum hand size, because, like, there are two scenarios for maximum hand size, right? Either you don't have any, you, like, miss your second land drop and you sigh and discard the hand size, or you draw up to 8 and then discard Gristlebrand to hand size. And, like, I don't really think either of those things, like, it's like, is this, like, I do we really need to do that? Like, come on.
If Magic stopped existing, what game do you think you would pick up to fill the void?
This might be a cheesy answer for people in our gamer circle, but I definitely would be. I'm really into most of the FromSoft games, like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, all that. So I'd probably go even harder into those.
From one crack to another. What's your favorite non-Magic story from a Magic the Gathering trip?
I have, like, a lot of, like, little interactions. Like, okay, so before London, I was talking with Simon Nielsen, and he just finished a draft deck, and then he's talking to us, and Andrea walks up to him and in, like, full, like, Mengu Italian accent goes like, "Come on, Simon, you're always the last one to finish building your deck." And I, like, remember that one really well. Oh, kind of in a similar vein of me being racist against European people. Not really racist, but I was at the World Championship that I was invited to. There was like a dinner that all the people were invited to, and John Emmanuel the Proz there. And if you know John Emmanuel the Proz, he is, like, the most French person on the planet, and he, like, is extremely proud of it. And like, is very patriotic about France, and we're all, like, sipping on our, like, Mai Tais and, like, pina coladas or whatever, because we're in Hawaii. And then I just, like, look over at John, and he's drinking red wine, and I'm like, oh my god, it's just like, you can take him anywhere, but just will, like, you know, be true to himself or whatever.
You can take the Frenchman out of France, but you can't take the France of the Frenchman. What's the first Magic card you remember?
Oh, that I remember?
Whether playing with opening
Leatherback Bailoff. When I was, like, learning how to play Magic, and, like, someone, like, was like, okay, so, like, this is what white does, it's about little creatures working together, and, like, this is what red does, it's about attacking you, and then, like, green is about, like, the creatures are, like, bigger, and I'm like, oh, well, then you obviously just win. Like, well, how is anybody supposed to beat that? And I'm like, okay, well. And they're like, oh, well, if you have Llanowar and then Leatherback Bailoff, then you win the game. Like, what? Like, there's no way to stop it.
What's your favorite card to try and wheel in Booster Draft? Any format at any point in
Oh, well,
time.
we've been talking about Cube recently. I'm not much of a Cube guy myself, but when I do Cube, I like to play mono white, so I'm gonna say Adeline.
What's your favorite deck you've ever played?
I mean, probably actually the first version of Modern Humans before Ixalan came out. Me and my friend Hunter were like just looking for decks with the 5-0s, and we found this deck that Andrew Cuneo was playing, and Andrew Cuneo and then another guy. He's the invitational winner of Sylvan Safekeeper. I don't remember. Ole Rade. Yeah, so Andrew Cuneo and Ole Rade and like all these old school pros are playing this like Collected Company, like a couple meddling mages, some Thalia's Lieutenants and Champion of the Parishes, like 4-color kind of wonky mana base with Cavern, a couple of like 3 fetch lands, bunch of shocks, some mana confluence to tie the room together. And the format was like Death Shadow and Eldrazi Tron, and like Reflector Mage just like destroyed both of those decks. Like they couldn't actually, they couldn't beat that. So we played that at the Grand Prix. Hunter got really unlucky. He like got paired into Merfolk twice and just like lost the creature mirror to Merfolk. But I just like lost my winning in at that GP Vegas. Well, it was GP Vegas, so there were like 1 million people there. So it was a winning in for a Pro Tour invite, but not for top. It was that. Yeah, it was like not for top. It was definitely not for top 8. But I lost my winning in playing for the PT invite, just because like the deck was like just like slaughtered Etron and Death Shadow. It was really sick deck.
Hell yeah. What's the most difficult match of Magic you've ever won?
The one, it happened pretty recently. Can't say it's a subjective thing, but I think it happened pretty recently. I had to play Ely Cassis, who's very, very good. I guess came off of second place at Worlds, and I had to play him in draft, which is not my specialty. My draft deck in this draft was really busted. I had like an Atali and the Rankle and Torbrand, a bunch of like busted on color rares and removal. But his deck had Breach the Multiverse, which mills both players for 10, and then you get to reanimate a creature from your yard and their yard. And he had multiple ways to like get it back. He had a way to tutor for it, so he had this like synergistic, powerful deck to set up this like combo kill in draft. And I ended up milling and then exiling with a graveyard hit spell, his Breach, and then I had to play in a way to like start decking him because he made like a 4/4 lifelinker and it lived for like 5 turns or like 4 turns. So I was like, okay, I have to deck him now. And then like he played a creature that when it dies you shuffle cards back, and he like you Gaia's Blessing yourself, and then okay now I can't kill that. Oh, but then like I have to like save my exile removal spell for that. Like, oh, I can't. I have to like use it on something else. And then like it's just like it ended up being like, oh wait, no, okay, now I have to start attacking. I drew like a menace creature. I drew like a flyer. Like I can kill him now. And like because he ended up like almost like flipping it back on me and then decking me because he was like because there were a bunch of like cards that were symmetrical mill in that set. So like he was like sandbagging them so that like the turn that he decks, he goes like symmetrical, like mill is both for 4, mill is both for 4, mill is both for 2, like and then pass the turn and then I deck first. But I ended up having to I ended up like realizing in time that I could damage kill him before that he like combo killed me with that. It's actually on camera. You can watch the game 3.
Well, to go back to less limited and into more of a constructed wheelhouse, what's the worst card you've ever registered in a deck?
Oh, there are a lot of options. Like, Hytale Freebooter hasn't really aged like fine wine. But there were
at the time it was
like they're probably like can we like adjust for inflation? Because like I played Anafenza the Foremost in Modern, but like that was like one of the best cards in Standard, right? So like I'm gonna go ahead and say Spectral Sailor. It's like it has a job, but it's not pretty.
What was your biggest Magic level up moment?
Probably when I would have to say like just real when we were playing, like going back to that humans deck, when we were playing that humans deck, and like I was like, oh, like why would you ever play Aether Vial? Like it's card disadvantage. Just use your lands to cast your spells, dummy. And then like one day I just like one day we were playing and we just realized like, oh, like tempo is way more important like right now. So that was like probably a pretty big one.
What's the best period of your favorite constructed format?
Probably like modern, like right when probably like modern, like right 2017 maybe, like around the time of that demons deck, like so like GDS, E-Tron were both like pretty popular decks. That was pretty good.
Who was the first player you remember idolizing?
Oh, definitely Tom Ross. That's like a pretty easy one. Like I like when I was first getting into Magic, like I was just like, oh, like what's the deck that I can play on a budget? Like I don't have any money. And it was like, oh, mono red. Like, oh, well, who's the best?
Follow everything.
Oh, who's the best mono red player? Like, oh, Tom. But then it started like going into more or less like, oh, like, well, why don't I just play Infect also? Like, oh, like, oh, the Rack? Yeah, sure, I'll play League of the Rack. Tom did it. Like,
what was the first Magic card you hated?
oh, first Magic card I hated. Probably Thragtusk. Just like. It's just like 5 life and 2 bodies. It's like, how do you? Yeah, it's like,
God damn it.
The Restoration Angel is definitely a close second. And just like, well, I only have 4 mana up. Like, you gotta attack anyway, you know? Like, can't just sit here.
What was your favorite tourney venue to go to play Magic?
Memphis is nice. It's in the flights are okay, and Memphis is like a fun city. But probably Denver in the downtown area. That one is probably like the best for us to SoCal people as far as like popular Grand Prix spots go.
Right on. And how's that? All right. So Mom says the Dino Nuggies are done, so we're gonna have to wrap this pod up. I got one last question for you, Eli. Pizza, burgers.
Oh, gotta go with pizza. There's so many more. You got so much more variety with that one. It's so open ended.
Awesome. Well, as we come to a close here, do you have any upcoming tournaments the fans can sweat you in, or perhaps a place where the good people can find you or your content?
I've been taking a little bit of break from the big tournaments. I'm gonna try to qualify for. I think the regional is going to be in Denver, so I'm going to be trying to qualify for that. But I'll still be working on lots of deck guides for CFB, especially focusing on modern mostly. Mega put me in charge of all the small creature decks, so if you play those, you can read my sideboard guides to Channel Fireball.
Awesome. Well, that does it for this episode. Thank you to my guest Eli, Wizards of the Coast, and you, the viewer. If y'all have any guests or questions you'd like to see asked on this program, feel free to let me know in the comments or just hit me up on Twitter at @LikeIkes. And remember, folks, it's handshake, sign the slip, then throw your O3 deck in the trash, not the other way around.